Welcome back to the Jacksonville History Show. I'm Jerry Spinks. With me today to talk about the history of the Arabic community here in Jacksonville, my guest Sam Farhat and his daughter Suzanne Villa. Pleasure to have you here.
Nice to be here.
One of the great things about our community is it's made of all the mosaics that make up our great community. Some of the tiles, if you can forgive my prosaic poise here, start in some places far away. In
1562.
Thank you, Sam. A man looked at a river and decided to cross it. And from that came a whole group of folks who in 1948 came to Jacksonville to cross another river. Sam, tell us the story.
In around 1562, our ancestors crossed the Jordan River from Jordan, southern Jordan, an area close to Petra, present-day Petra. And it shows on the map that the location where we came from. And they came to, it's a Christian community, Christian father and his children. And he wants to go to the area around Jerusalem. So by trade he was a blacksmith, and of course he was looking for wood. So the Ramallah area was heavily wooded. It has a Christian monastery. So he took refuge in that area and stayed there. And according to the Ottoman Empire census, around 1562, there was 25 people in the small village of Ramallah, and it's recorded under the Ottoman Empire.
Is that the document we see on it?
The document that this is the document in Turkish, and there is a corresponding document in English. You can see on the screen. Those are the people that lived in Ramallah in 1562. The history of Ramallah people being in the United States started around 1905. The first immigrant that came to the U.S. Around 1905. Well, the men came here, but the families stayed home in the old country until 1948. Now in 1948, as you know, Jerry, Israel was established, and in that process most Ramallah people lost their homes, lost their properties inside Israel after they declared the ceasefire, and they could not go back to it. The families decided that it's enough for the separation. They wanted to bring their children to the U.S. and their families. So in 1948 we had an influx of a few thousand of Ramallah people, and in 1967 also, after the Six-Day War, we have another influx to the United States. And the reason we came to Jacksonville, we had some relatives that live here.
Family reunions
yes.
do not hurt.
So everybody heard about Jacksonville, the nice climate that we have, and so some of us came to this area. Ramallah people are scattered all over the U.S., with a major concentration in San Francisco and Detroit, Houston, Chicago, Jacksonville, and many smaller communities. We are represented here by the Ramallah Club, located on Parental Home Road. We celebrated the 50th anniversary about 5 years ago. So the purpose of the club is to socialize, educate, and do some charity work for the community. And since then, we have been growing. We have about 3,500 to 4,000 members. They are all cousins, and relatives. Ramallah was predominantly Christian until 1948, so most of the Palestinians that you see in Jacksonville are Christians. Of course, we have some Muslims that live in Jacksonville, but they are not originally from the original inhabitants of Ramallah.
Well, all of the group that came were involved in many trades, weren't they?
Yes. The first wave of immigrants were traveling salesmen primarily. And then as they established some wealth and brought their family, they wanted to establish some roots. So, and thus they established the roots in Jacksonville and other communities. And in doing so, they opened the grocery stores, and their children opened the delis, and you know the famous White Way Deli in the Riverside area. They serve good food. They have been in the new location just recently, but in that area they have been there for 35, 40 years.
It's 2 generations, I believe.
Yes, yes.
Are there many other businesses that are multi-generational?
Yes, quite a few businesses that are given from one member of the family to the children. They are in the delis, and most of the people that have the businesses are immigrants, first-generation immigrants. Okay? Now, the second wave of our generations are mostly professionals, and we have quite a few professionals in this town that their names are recognizable.
Well, you have one great professional sitting immediately to your left.
Thank you.
Suzanne, all this great tradition that makes up such a wonderful community and such a wonderful part of Jacksonville, when did you become aware that you had all these great things?
Well, you know, as a child, you go to the Ramallah Club. We would go every weekend just about and play there while our parents went to meetings. We didn't know exactly what they were meeting about, but we knew that when we went there, we got to socialize with our extended family and their children and their children's children. And so it became a, you know, meeting place for the youth as well as the older generation. You know, I was born here, and so everything that my parents told me early on about Ramallah, you know, you kind of listen to it and you say, okay, okay, but then you want to go on to the skating rink and do all the things that normal Jacksonville children do.
And you got to be able to repeat it back, or you don't go to the skating rink.
Exactly, exactly. So,
great,
you know,
great stories.
Once we started really getting into our culture per se is,
right.
I think when I was probably a teenager and we started having our own youth organizations through the church and through the club, and we started networking with other children of immigrants from all over the United States. And we kind of became aware of, you know, our heritage. We started learning more about it. I even remember at one point taking Arabic language classes at the club. And I can't speak Arabic. I'm not 100%, you know, fluent. I couldn't talk about politics, but I can find my way around Ramallah if I were to get lost.
What a great feeling.
But, you know, we started learning a lot more then as we became teenagers. And as we got older, we started to have a better appreciation for it. And, you know, it's something I still try to instill in my own children. And they're starting to learn.
The third generation.
3 boys, that's right.
Well, I hope they get to roller skate really as fast as you did.
Yeah.
Sam, let's take a look at some of the people that are within the Ramallah Club that are that are in Jacksonville, and if many people would probably know. I think to begin with, you know, give us a few names of folks that have been here.
I would just like to illustrate how our community is part of the fabric of this community. For instance, let me start by naming individual, for instance, Edward Elias, who's a decorated Vietnam veteran. He's a member of the community. And Layla Musa, she was just retired recently, the assistant to the superintendent, school superintendent. Salim and Sam Musa, they both were the chief administrative officers for Mayors Hazuri and Delaney. And we have Eddie and Chuck Farah, John Khalil, of course Suzanne, prominent lawyers in Jacksonville, and many others. We have real estate developers. I could name Jimmy Gibran. He's in the warehouse business, and
their families were all part of the group that came to Jacksonville since 1948.
Yes,
so they were all
first
part of this whole thing.
Wadia Bakar and Mike Akel, they are developers of shopping centers. Jack Hanania and Fred Hassan, auto dealers and RV dealers. Doctors, you know, my son is a doctor, Dr. Majid Hassan, Jack Salah, Ramzi Salim, Sam Hanania. And I like to say one last one, Dr. Ryan Salim, who is the chairman of the Board of Pharmacy, whom we are extremely proud of. And also we have a judiciary member, Judge Frank Akel, who is a member of this community. So,
Sam, Susan, thank you very much for being here today. It's a real pleasure to learn more about the Ramana Club and your community and the role that all of you have played in Jacksonville. I really feel very proud. This is a really great community, and it truly is a mosaic of all the folks and families. And I'm certainly glad that gentleman came across the river.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Please stay tuned. We have a wrap-up session to discuss some historic properties, and we'll be back in just a moment.